welcome to India's Most Responsible Companies, our special series that puts the spotlight on those organizations that are thinking beyond the bottom line and are doing business with a big heart. I'm Mridhu Bhandari. Even as we cope with the largest humanitarian crisis of our times, the COVID-19 pandemic, India Inc. is doing all it can to mobilize relief and resources. Today, we are focusing on some of the numerous efforts that tire manufacturer Bridgestone is making in India, not just to aid the war on COVID-19, but also to empower rural youth and women, as well as persons with disabilities, and also manufacture responsibly as well as sustainably in the long run. Bridgestone India is one of the most preferred OEM suppliers for major car manufacturers in India. With a vast network of approximately 3,000 dealers driven to serve society with superior quality, Bridgestone India remains undeterred in its vision to make quality tires available even in the remotest corners of the country. And now to tell us all about the company's CSR initiatives, I'm joined by Parag Satpute, the Managing Director of Bridgestone India. Welcome, Parag. Thank you very much for joining us on India's Most Responsible Companies.
Thank you, Mridhu. It's an honor and a pleasure to be on this program with you and to represent Bridgestone on this very, very prestigious platform.
First up, give us a sense of what Bridgestone India's larger CSR philosophy is. What are the key pillars?
Indeed. So let me start by giving you some context and history. The Bridgestone Group was founded more than 90 years ago, and our founder, Ishibashi-san, he believed that businesses cannot exist just to make profits. They have to contribute to the society that they operate in. And that has become a mission statement for the company, serving society with superior quality. So CSR for us, or serving the community for us, is not just about the CSR efforts. It's about two things: serving the community that we are operating in and running with sustainable business practices. When I talk about serving the community, to ensure that we make an impact in the areas we act, we have chosen 3 focus areas. So it is obviously people, then environment, and the third is mobility, because we are active in the mobility space. So all our CSR efforts or our society support efforts are guided by these 3 pillars and the philosophy of the founder.
Right, and I'm going to come to each of those pillars in just a bit. Let me also first talk to you about the current situation, the pandemic that has been particularly hard for the underprivileged. And of course, we were all caught unaware about a year and a half back. Now, over the course of the last 1 year, how did Bridgestone India then manage to sustain its community outreach programs? How challenging has this time been, particularly on this aspect?
Yeah. So if ever the community needed support from corporates, from government, then the last year was the time. So we saw this as an opportunity to really put our philosophy into practice. And during the first wave, it caught us all unawares, and we jumped right in to try and support the communities that were most affected. So of course, like many other companies, we started to support the local health community. But beyond that, we realized that due to the sudden lockdown that happened last year, a number of truckers were stranded in places far away from their homes and without access to food, to livelihood, to medical facilities. So we put in a lot of efforts to support this community of truckers.
We were one of the very early responders. And as soon as the lockdown was announced, we realized that there are truck drivers who are stranded all over the highways, and with very little rations available to them. They could have just survived for a day or two, and we knew that the lockdown is going to be there for more than 3 weeks. So the fact that we could reach out to them within 3 days with the survival kits, with the safety kits, is very close to my heart.
That was during the first wave. As the situation developed and then the second wave came upon us, we redoubled our efforts with the healthcare. So we have been very active around our 2 plants. We have 2 plants, one in Chakan near Pune and one in Pithampur near Indore. So we have been very active there supporting the healthcare infrastructure. Because as we all realized during the second wave, because the number of cases were just unexpected and very, very high, the healthcare infrastructure came under a lot of pressure. So as a company, we jumped in, connected with the hospitals around us, connected with the healthcare staff around us, and started providing them support in terms of oxygen concentrators, in terms of ventilators, in terms of masks, and wherever we could do in terms of medicine.
Right. And you mentioned earlier that your three key pillars are mobility, environment, and people. I want you to focus a little bit more on the mobility front. What exactly are you doing there? Because that is Bridgestone's core business area.
Indeed. For any company to make a sustainable impact, it is important to focus your efforts. And we decided to focus on mobility because as a tire manufacturer, we are active in the mobility space. And then looking at the Indian situation, the Indian context, we realized that one particular community has a big impact on the mobility in India, but is also not in so much focus. And that is the truck driving community, as well as the tire fitters. So a few years ago, we decided to focus on these two communities and develop a number of programs which would help to make them economically independent and create a sustainable business for them. So, for example, we do a truck driving training program for the truck drivers. It is done in collaboration with IDTR. It's a residential program where we identify youth from economically underprivileged sections, bring them to the center in Pune, train them not just in driving the heavy commercial vehicles, but also give them all-round training in developing their soft skills as well as financial planning. And then eventually we work with other corporates to place them so that they get livelihood as soon as they graduate from this course.
ट्रेनिंग शुरू करने के बाद हमें यहाँ पे बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिला जो कि हम बाहर नॉर्मली सीख नहीं सकते। तो यहाँ पे जैसे कि बाइटिंग पॉइंट सिखाया हमें, अप हिल डाउन हिल, हमें गाड़ी चलाना सिखाया कि अप हिल में कैसे हम गाड़ी को बिना पीछे किए कैसे सीधा सीधा आगे लेके जा सकते हैं। और इसमें सबसे अच्छा काम बाइटिंग पॉइंट करता है और बाइटिंग पॉइंट स्किल्स बेस्ट स्किल्स है। आज
मैं अभी पूरी तरह सीख चुका हूँ सर की तरफ गाड़ी। अब मैं टाटा मोटर्स में ज्वाइन करके कुछ पैसे कमाऊंगा और फ्यूचर में गाड़ी लूँगा और मैं खुद का गाड़ी चलाऊँगा।
So this is one program that we have for the truck drivers. Another program we have, which is in collaboration with RSDC, the rubber board, is to train the tire fitters across India in the new techniques that are available to repair tires, especially with products such as tubeless tires coming in. This is going to become very important. So these are some of the programs that we have been following now to support this community and which are active in the mobility space.
Right. Very, very interesting initiatives, Parag. And all of this also eventually contributes a lot to road safety. And that, again, is a critical focus area for Bridgestone, apart from, of course, providing economic independence to these communities. So give us a sense of the kind of solutions that you are creating on the road safety front in particular. And what are the need gaps that you're trying to address? And what is the larger belief behind doing these?
You picked up a very important point, Midhu. In India, I think road safety should become a very important discussion point. So the programs that I described, training the truck drivers directly has a positive impact on the road safety. Alongside training the truck drivers, we are also providing them eye checkup camps. At these camps, many of the truck drivers who have never got their eyes tested have the ability to get the eyes tested, to get the right medication, and also we provide them with eye correction glasses, lenses, and this is an ongoing activity. So you can imagine the direct positive impact it will have on road safety. Along with this, for the tire fitters, the health of the tire is very, very important for the safety on the road of the trucks. So we are training the tire fitters to ensure that they check the tires properly and make sure that they will not result in any accidents. So these are just a couple of things which tie in the programs we have to make this society economically independent, along with having a bigger impact on road safety for all of us.
Right. So I want to talk to you about that partnership that you've done with the Rubber Skill Development Council, and you've started the training of 1,000 tire fitters across India, also refresher training courses for about 2,500 tire fitters. And of course, as a tire manufacturer, I'm sure you have a lot of these observations around upskilling needs of this particular segment. So tell us, what drove you to do this in the first place, and what sort of new and latest technologies are you empowering all of these people with? And what has your biggest challenge been in launching these initiatives during the pandemic in particular?
So the tire fitting network in India is very, very unorganized. While there might be some large service centers in the big cities, but by and large, the roadside service centers are very, very unorganized. Of course, they are not well trained and they don't have the right tools. This becomes especially important because the technology in tires is evolving very fast. In most countries in the world now, even for truck tires, most of the tires are tubeless. In India, that technology will come and eventually will become the major way that truck tires are made. And it is very important that the service centers, the tire fitters are trained in handling tubeless tires, as well as that they have the right tools, because it's a very different kind of repair work that has to be done. In the program that we are running, we do the technical training, and at the end of the program, we also give them the new tools that are needed to repair tubeless tires. So that is our focus, to ensure that the whole infrastructure is upgraded in the coming years.
All right, on that note, let's take a short break right now, but we'll be right back. And on the other side, we will continue to explore what makes Bridgestone one of India's most responsible companies. Stay with us. Welcome back. You are watching India's Most Responsible Companies, and on the show today, we are featuring the incredible CSR initiatives of Bridgestone India, and I'm in conversation with the Managing Director of the company, Parag Satpute. You've also been doing some very interesting work as far as, empowerment of persons with disabilities is concerned. You have an interesting initiative called Samarthya that promotes accessible and smart mobility for persons with disabilities. Tell us a little more about this program. What exactly are you doing, and what is the sort of impact that you've been able to create?
So this is one of our more recent programs. And again, it is in line with our core philosophy of being inclusive. As you might know, Bridgestone is one of the top sponsors of the Olympic movement. And one of the reasons we decided to be associated with a movement such as the Olympics is because it believes in inclusiveness and taking the whole community together. We are also, by the way, a sponsor of the Paralympics as a group. Coming to India, I think this is, again, one segment which is not so much talked about. We realize that, and we are just starting to focus on creating more inclusiveness for people with disabilities. I think we will, in the future, think about more programs once we have done a more in-depth study and analysis of the needs of this community.
मैं और मेरे हस्बैंड हम दोनों ने मिलके जब ये एसवी कैन स्टार्ट किया था, तो हमारा मेन फोकस जो था वो इंडिपेंडेंट लिविंग पे था. तो ब्रिजस्टोन ने आकर हमारे जो ये गोल था उसको पूरा करने में हमारा साथ दिया. उन्होंने ना कि हमें व्हीलचेयर्स प्रोवाइड करी जो मोटराइज्ड व्हीलचेयर हैं, उसके साथ साथ उन्होंने हमें 4 साल का और टाइम दिया कि जब तक आप स्टैंड नहीं हो जाते हैं, जिनको हम व्हीलचेयर दे रहे हैं वो अपनी लाइफ में कुछ करके नहीं दिखाते, तब तक हम साथ खड़े हैं.
2019 में अक्टूबर में मेरे को सोशल मीडिया के माध्यम से सामर्थ्य के बारे में पता चला. 3 दिसंबर 2019 में इन्होंने YWC के ऑफिस में बुलाया, और जिसमें हमें ये व्हीलचेयर दी गई फ्रीडम वालों की. और उसके बाद में पहले मैं 100% डिपेंड रहता था अपने घर वालों पे. जब से व्हीलचेयर मिली मैं 20% डिपेंड रहता हूँ, और अपना 80% अपना सारा काम कर लेता हूँ।
समर्थ में क्या है कि हम जब भी जिस डिसेबिलिटी के साथ जी रहे हैं वो क्या करता है कि हमारे साथ रह के इम्प्रूव लाने की चेंजेस कोशिश करता है। जो भी हमें नीड वगैरह जो भी ज़रूरतें होती हैं वो कोशिश करता है कि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा वो पूरी कर सके।
These small pilots that you've done are very, very heartwarming indeed, and I hope you scale up all those efforts very soon. But apart from inclusivity, Bridgestone India also believes in responsible manufacturing and long-term sustainability. So give us a sense of what you are doing on these fronts in particular.
As the title of the show says, India's most responsible companies. I think it has two aspects. One aspect is what we have been talking about, how we give back to the community. The second aspect is to carry out our business in a sustainable way, in a way that it does not harm. In fact, it supports the environment. And again, we believe that sustainable strategy is something which is core to the way we operate. Even more important, I think, is the impact we can have through our products. So the new products that we come up with, we have a Ecopia range of tires, which is for trucks as well as for passenger cars. They have the ability to reduce fuel consumption by up to 10%. And you can imagine how big an impact that can have on the environment. And all our research efforts is going towards such activities within our operations, as well as with the products that we are selling across the world.
All right. Well, the second wave of COVID really wreaked havoc in India. Hopefully, the worst is behind us. But needless to say, some of these newer waves of COVID will perhaps come our way in the future as well. Will Bridgestone India then be continuing its relief and rehabilitation efforts as far as the pandemic is concerned?
That goes without saying, Vidhu. I mean, that goes without saying. Of course, which areas we will focus on will depend a little bit on how the situation pans out. Like I described, during the first wave, there was a lot of activity to support the truck drivers who had been stranded, while in the second wave, we focused a lot on increasing the oxygen supply in the local hospitals. Let's hope that the third wave is not as severe as any of the first two. I sincerely hope that. But as and when the society needs our support, we are there. And not just through the resources, I must say, not just through the monetary contributions that the company makes, but I'm also very proud and humbled by the fact that teammates across Bridgestone, we have close to 3,100 employees, they have gone out of their way to support their local community during this time. So across all fronts, while we hope that there will not be such a severe wave of COVID in the future, but we are all prepared and geared up to support our community.
Right. And aside from the pandemic, what's next on Bridgestone India's social agenda? What are the areas that you will continue to focus on and invest in? And what's your long-term impact strategy for Bridgestone in India?
So our core focus areas will remain as per our CSR policy, which is people, environment, and mobility. But within this, we are always analyzing and finding the areas where we can have sustainable impact. One such area which has come to our attention and we have started working on it is inclusiveness and really empowering the women in the community. So we have started a couple of programs, more or less at the pilot stage, but which we hope to develop. One of them is aimed at making women more independent by training them to drive cars and to then become cab drivers. I think that is an area in the gig economy which is growing very, very rapidly in India, but it's predominantly male dominated. We have been working with an NGO in the city of Indore where we have trained more than 100 women to become cab drivers.
यहाँ से मैंने सीख के अपना खुद रोजगार चालू करा। अभी एक जगह जॉब कर रही हूँ एक कंपनी में, जिस कंपनी में मैं चाय बनाने के काम करती थी, जहाँ से मेरा 3,500 की सैलरी था, आज वहाँ मेरा 11-12 हज़ार की सैलरी है।
ब्रिजस्टोन एंड समान सोसाइटी के द्वारा मैंने टू व्हीलर का काम सीखा है, रिपेयरिंग का, एंड मैंने फोर व्हीलर चलाना भी सीखा और फोर व्हीलर में मैं स्टेपनी वगैरह भी कर लेती हूँ और ऑयल वगैरह भी चेंज कर लेती हूँ और मुझे ये काम करना बहुत अच्छा लगता है।
ई रिक्शा के लिए प्रेरित करा सर लोगों ने ब्रिजस्टोन की तरफ से और समान सोसाइटी की तरफ से। नहीं, आप अच्छे ड्राइवर बन गए हो, आप खुद करो और मैं खुद का पैसा कमाती हूँ, खुद अच्छा लगता है सर मुझे।
मैंने तो कर ही लिया है, बाकी मैं और भी लड़कियों से जो है महिलाएं घर पर, मैं उनसे भी कहना चाहूँगी कि आप लोग भी ज़रूर ट्राई करो, आप भी बहुत अच्छे ड्राइवर बन सकते हो। पहले मुझे भी यही लगता था कि शायद मैं नहीं कर पाऊँगी, बट आज मैं कर लिया है मैंने, और मैं यहाँ बहुत अच्छी परफेक्ट ड्राइवर बन चुकी हूँ।
There is this sense of empowerment, as well as we also feel that this kind of initiative has also enabled safe mobility options for women and elderly.
Similarly, in the city of Pune, taking into mind that we have a young population, we have trained a number of young ladies in last mile delivery. Once again, because e-commerce in India is growing rapidly, so we believe that by empowering women to take part in that area of the economy, we can help them support their families and eventually support the community. So these are some of the areas where we will work on.
Right. Parag, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for joining us here today and telling us all about what makes Bridgestone one of India's most responsible companies. That's a wrap on this edition of the show. We'll be back next time with lots more. Till then, thank you for joining us. Goodbye.